This was a survey that was done by IBM. It was called the Making Change Work Survey. And this survey was conducted with over 1,500 companies. And what this essentially is showing you is answering the question, what are the critical success factors for change? And they're divided into soft factors and hard factors. Hard factors are typically more measurable, more quantitative. Soft factors are not. But that being said, what you'll notice is the highest scores were in the soft factors. And I'll talk about each of the top three in a moment. But I want to mention something about training, because training is a very visible part of change management. And a lot of people, when they think about change management, they think about training and they think about communications, because both of those areas are the most visible. However, you'll notice that only 38% of the respondents indicated that this particular element is a critical success factor. And the reason for that is that you can have the best training program in the world, but if people don't show up for it because their managers won't let them, or they don't show up for it because they don't want to, or they do show up for it, but they don't pay attention because they don't see the value, or they do pay attention, but they don't ultimately do what you need them to do after you've taught them whatever you've taught them in the training program, you're not going to get the results you're looking for. So there's a whole bunch of things that need to be done first to get people, in terms of their heads and their hearts, into the space they need to be so that they're actually going to benefit from the training experience. And companies have seen this over and over again, and this is why you're seeing these results, and these results are reflective of that. Let me jump to the top three soft factors. Top management sponsorship. I was involved in an assessment. This was an SAP implementation assessment, another one. And this was assessment in terms of a change management program, and why wasn't the change management program itself effective within the organization. And one of the things I learned was that the senior leadership team were doing a couple of things. First of all, they themselves were not aligned in terms of the importance of this program. So people were getting different messages. And secondly, the messages that they were giving publicly relative to the messages they were sharing during water cooler talks and informally were different. So when those messages got spread informally further, then that created some more additional consequences in terms of people's belief and confidence in the importance of this change. Because people do look to their management for direction, for a priority, in terms of where they need to focus their time, because that has implications in terms of their performance at the end of the year, bonuses, incentives, and so forth. So top management sponsorship is at the top of this list. It doesn't happen anywhere near as much as it has to, and to the extent that you can work with your senior leaders in order to work through projects and drive that alignment at the senior level, at the steering committee level, at the operating committee level, and the project level will serve you well. Secondly, let's talk about employee involvement. If you think of the adage, those who plan the battle rarely battle the plan. If you're involved in the decision making, you're likely going to go along with the decision that's ultimately made. And to the extent, and this, of course, from a realistic perspective, you can't involve everybody in your organization in the decision making directly, but there's ways to get their input and integrate their input and feed back to them decisions that have made and why they've been made and why certain aspects were included and other aspects were not included. So there's certainly ways to do that. But based on the size of the project and the number of people that are impacted and the number of people that you need to check in with to get their input on various decisions, to the extent that can be greater versus less and still achieve the milestones and the goals of the project would certainly serve you well. And then thirdly, in terms of honest and timely communication. People can typically tell when they're being told something and it's not true, or they don't trust the communicator of the information, or they feel that the information is going to continue to change. I worked with a client once where they said to me, Trevor, this is a project of the month. Every time we start a project, a month later, another executive will come up with another project that they get all excited about, and they kick this off with all this fanfare, and that dies down. So our feelings are, if we wait long enough, this project will go away. So we don't really need to spend too much time focusing on it. So honest and timely communication. In that context, perhaps the intentions were honest, the intentions were timely, but the sustainability of that effort was not. People will make up facts in the absence of sharing facts with them. So to the extent that you can get information to people sooner rather than later, and you can provide more of a complete picture sooner rather than later, will help you to address this critical success factor and help you to avoid the rumor mill and help you to avoid all of the ripple effects of people making up their own conclusions and then sharing those conclusions and so forth, and all the damage control or firefighting you have to do in dealing with those consequences.